The stars were burning. Admiral stood on the bridge of her ship, the Eternal Grace, and watched her fleet die. She was not human. Her skin was pale blue, and thin wings grew from her back. She belonged to a race called one of the oldest species in the Galactic Council. For 3,000 years, the Council had kept peace among 17 different alien species. They built beautiful ships meant for trade and exploration. They believed war was something from the past. They were wrong. The swarm had come from the empty space between galaxies. No one knew where they came from or what they wanted. They were insects, but not like any insect had ever seen. Each one was the size of a small ship. They traveled in living vessels made of bone and flesh, and they numbered in the millions. Fleet had gone to meet them at the edge of Council space. 800 ships against a tide of darkness. It was supposed to be a show of strength. Instead, it became a slaughter. Admiral, her second-in-command, said. His voice was shaking. "We have lost another 12 ships. Only 47 remain." Closed her eyes. 800 ships, crews from a dozen different species. Families, friends, all gone in less than a day. "Order the retreat," she said. Her voice was calm, but inside she was screaming. "We must warn the Council." A human stood beside her on the bridge. His name was, and he served as a diplomat for Earth. He was tall and quiet, with dark eyes that seemed to see everything. Humans were new to the galaxy. They had joined the Council only 60 years ago. Most species thought of them as children, barely able to fly between stars. Watched the battle through the main screen. His face showed nothing. Had always found humans strange. They could hide their feelings so well. "Ambassador," she said to him, "do you have any suggestions?" Did not answer right away. He watched as another Council ship exploded in a ball of fire. Then he spoke. "Retreating to the core worlds will not save us, Admiral." "What do you mean?" "I have studied the swarm's movement patterns. I have calculated their speed and their numbers." He turned to look at her with those dark, unreadable eyes. "If they continue at this rate, they will consume every world in the Council within 18 months. Running will only delay the end." Felt cold fear grip her heart. "Then what can we do?" Was silent for a long moment. Around them the ship shook as weapons fire struck its shields. Warning lights flashed. Officers shouted orders, but stood perfectly still, thinking. "I need to send a message," he finally said. "To whom?" "To Earth." Stared at him. Earth? What could those primitive newcomers possibly do? Their fleet was tiny. Their technology was decades behind the Council races. They were farmers and traders, nothing more. "Ambassador, with respect, you cannot help us. Earth has perhaps 50 ships. We just lost 700. His expression did not change. "Admiral, there are things about my people that the Council does not know." Before could ask what he meant, an officer cried out in alarm. "Admiral, the swarm is breaking through the rear guard. They will reach us in minutes." Turned back to the battle. The swarm's living ships moved like a great cloud of death. They did not fire weapons like normal ships. Instead, they rammed into their targets and tore them apart with massive claws. They were animals, she realized. Hungry animals that saw her fleet as food. "All ships emergency jump to hyperspace," she ordered. "Get us out of here." The Eternal Grace's engines roared to life. Through the screen, watched as the last of her rear guard was consumed. A cruiser, the Morning Star, was surrounded by dozens of swarm creatures. They ripped it open like predators tearing apart prey. Could hear the screams over the radio before the signal died. Then everything went white as the ship jumped to safety. When they emerged from hyperspace, they were near the core worlds. Home, safety, but knew it was only temporary. She turned to find still standing in the same spot. He had not moved during the entire escape. Now he was typing something into his personal communicator. "What are you doing?" she asked. "Sending my message." "To Earth, Ambassador, I told you, your people cannot help us." finished typing and put away his device. When he looked at her, saw something in his eyes that she had never seen before. It was not fear, it was not sadness, it was something harder, something dangerous. "Admiral," he said quietly, "my people have been part of this council for 60 years. In that time you have treated us kindly. You gave us a seat at your table. You shared your knowledge with us. And in return we have kept a secret from you." "What secret?" Smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who knew something terrible. "Earth is what your scientists call a class XII. Our gravity would crush most species. Our air would burn their lungs. Our animals and plants have been trying to kill us since we first crawled out of the ocean. Every day of our existence has been a war for survival." He stepped closer to her. "Did you really think a species like that would ever stop building weapons?" Felt something she had not felt in a long time. She felt hope, and she felt afraid. The message was sent. Now they could only wait for Earth's answer. 60 years ago, humans discovered they were not alone in the universe. A small exploration ship from Earth had stumbled into space by accident. The aliens were surprised to find intelligent life on such a deadly world. Earth's gravity was heavy. Its weather was violent. Its oceans were full of monsters. The scientists could not understand how anything could survive there, let alone build starships. The Galactic Council welcomed humanity with open arms. They gave them trading rights and diplomatic positions. They shared some of their technology, and they watched the humans with amused curiosity, like adults watching children play. The humans smiled and thanked them. They built small colonies on distant planets. They sent diplomats to council meetings. They seemed harmless, peaceful, weak. It was all a lie. Deep beneath the red surface of Mars, the real work had been happening for 60 years. Shipyards the size of cities worked day and night. In the asteroid belt, thousands of mining stations fed raw materials to construction facilities hidden among the rocks. Around the moons of Jupiter, the largest military fleet in human history waited in silence. This was the United Earth Defense Force, and no one in the galaxy knew it existed. Captain stood in the command center of the Unconquered Sun, the flagship of the secret fleet. She was 42 years old, with black hair that had turned too early from the weight of her responsibilities. She had commanded this ship for 5 years, and she had never fired a single weapon in battle. Today that would change. "Captain," said Lieutenant, her communications officer. He was young, barely 30, with a nervous habit of tapping his fingers when he was worried. Right now, he was tapping very fast. "We have received a priority message from Ambassador." "Put it on screen." The message was short, a few lines of text and a massive file of tactical data. Read it twice to make sure she understood. The swarm, millions of ships, the Council fleet destroyed, 18 months until total extinction. And at the bottom of the message, 3 words: "We need you." Turned to face her bridge crew. They were the best humanity had to offer. Engineers who had built impossible machines. Pilots who could fly through asteroid fields blindfolded. Warriors who had trained their whole lives for a war they hoped would never come. "You have all read the reports about the swarm," she said. Her voice was calm and steady. "You know what they have done. You know what they will do if we do not stop them." She looked at each of them in turn. At communications, at tactical, at navigation, at engineering, all of them were afraid, all of them were ready. "For 60 years we have hidden in the shadows. We have built our fleet in secret while the galaxy thought we were weak. Some of you have asked why. Why hide? Why pretend to be less than we are?" She pointed at the screen, where the swarm's advance was marked in angry red. "This is why. We knew that someday something like this would come. Something that the peaceful races of the Council could not fight. Something that only a species born in blood and fire could face." Lieutenant spoke up. She was the tactical officer, a small woman with sharp eyes and a mind like a computer. Captain, our fleet numbers 3,000 ships. The swarm has millions. The math is not in our favor. Smiled. It was not a nice smile. The math does not account for what we are, Lieutenant. The swarm has never fought before. They have never faced a species that evolved by killing everything that tried to kill them. She turned back to the main screen and pressed a button on her command chair. Her voice echoed through every ship in the fleet. All vessels, this is Captain. You have all received the tactical data. You know what we face. The Galactic Council is about to die. Billions of innocent beings are about to be consumed by a mindless swarm of insects. She paused, letting her words sink in. For 60 years, the galaxy has looked at humanity and seen weakness. They have us. They have laughed at us. Today, we show them what humans really are. In the shipyards of Mars, engines roared to life. Around Jupiter, 3,000 warships began to move. In the asteroid belt, cargo vessels loaded with weapons and supplies fell into formation. All ships set course for the core worlds. Maximum speed. We have a galaxy to save. The fleet moved as one. Each ship was a masterpiece of human engineering. Their hulls were thick enough to survive direct hits. Their weapons could crack planets. Their shields could stop almost anything. And at the heart of each ship was something the Council races did not have. Something that made humans unique among all species in the galaxy. Rage. Deep, cold, patient rage. The rage of a species that had fought for survival since the first human ancestors climbed down from the trees. The rage of creatures who had tamed fire and split the atom. The rage of warriors who had spent 10,000 years killing each other before finally learning to work together. Now that rage had a new target. Lieutenant looked up from his navigation console. Captain, course is set. We will reach the core worlds in 14 days. The swarm will arrive in 16, added. We will beat them by 2 days. Nodded. 2 days. Not much time to prepare, but it would have to be enough. Lieutenant, begin running battle simulations. I want every possible scenario covered. Lieutenant, maintain communication silence. We do not want the Council to know we are coming. Why not, Captain? Asked. Smile grew wider. Because, Lieutenant, I want to see the look on their faces when 3,000 human warships drop out of hyperspace. After 60 years of pretending to be weak, we have earned that much. The fleet disappeared into hyperspace, leaving nothing behind but empty space and the distant light of stars. The secret was about to be revealed. Humanity was going to war. And the galaxy would never be the same. The core worlds were dying of fear. Refugee ships filled the space lanes like blood flowing from a wound. Billions of beings fled from the swarm's advance. They crowded onto stations and planets, fighting for food and water. Some ships crashed into each other in the panic. Others simply ran out of fuel and drifted in the cold darkness of space. In the Great Council chamber, the leaders of 17 species screamed at each other. High Counselor sat in her chair and watched the chaos with tired eyes. She was old now, almost 80 years old. Her hair was white, and her hands were spotted with age. She had spent 40 years fighting for humanity's place in this chamber. Now it seemed like it was all for nothing. The humans did this, screamed Delegate, a tall creature covered in green scales. He pointed a clawed finger at. Their primitive violence attracted the swarm to our space. Other voices joined in agreement, did not bother to respond. It was a stupid accusation and everyone knew it. The swarm came from outside the galaxy. They did not care about humans or anyone else, but fear made people look for someone to blame. We should execute her, another delegate shouted. Send her head to the swarm as an offering of peace. Sighed, I do not think the swarm accepts offerings, but I appreciate the creative thinking. Admiral burst through the doors of the chamber. Her wings were folded tight against her back, and her blue face was pale with terror. They are here, she announced. Her voice echoed through the sudden silence. The swarm has reached the outer defense stations. We have hours, maybe less. For a moment, no one moved. No one spoke. The weight of extinction pressed down on every being in the room. 3,000 years of civilization, 17 species, trillions of lives, all about to end. Felt her personal communicator vibrate in her pocket. She pulled it out and looked at the screen. A message from Earth, from the United Earth Defense Force. She read it 3 times, then she started to laugh. Every eye in the chamber turned to her. Delegate hissed with anger. "What is so funny, human? Do you find our death amusing?" Stood up from her chair. Her old bones ached, but she forced herself to stand straight and tall. "No, Delegate, I find our survival amusing." She held up her communicator. "I have just received word that help is coming." Help? Admiral stepped forward, hope and doubt fighting on her face. "From whom? Every council fleet has been destroyed. There is no one left to help us." "Not every fleet," smiled. It was the first real smile she had worn in weeks, just the ones you knew about. Before she could explain, alarms began to sound throughout the station. Red lights flashed. Officers ran through the halls, shouting orders that no one could hear over the noise. Admiral grabbed a nearby console and pulled up a display. Her eyes went wide. "Impossible," she whispered. "What is it?" Delegate demanded. "What do you see?" "Ships, thousands of them. They are coming out of hyperspace near the outer planets." The main screen in the chamber flickered to life. It showed a view of space near the gas giants at the edge of the system. One by one, like stars being born, points of light appeared against the darkness. Human ships. Not the 50 small trading vessels the Council knew about. These were warships, massive warships bristling with weapons that should not exist. Their hulls were thick and designed for battle. Their engines burned with cold blue fire, and they kept coming, more and more and more. "Count them," ordered, her voice barely above a whisper. The tactical officer worked at his console. His hands were shaking. 3,000 vessels, Admiral, all human, all heavily armed. The chamber erupted in chaos. Delegates screamed questions and accusations. Some demanded explanations. Others simply stared at the screen in shock. Stood in the middle of it all, calm and still. She had known this day would come. She had spent 40 years preparing for it. Now, at last, humanity's secret was revealed. A transmission came through on the main speakers. A woman's voice, calm and confident. "This is Captain of the United Earth Defense Force flagship Unconquered Sun. We are responding to Ambassador's request for assistance. We apologize for the deception regarding the true state of our military capabilities." The voice paused. When it spoke again, there was something hard in it, something dangerous. "To the Galactic Council, we are here to help. To the Swarm, you have exactly one chance to retreat. If you do not take it, we will destroy you." Silence fell over the chamber. Admiral turned to look at with new eyes. "How long?" she asked quietly. "How long have you been hiding this?" 60 years, answered, "since the day we joined the Council." "Why?" Looked at the screen, where the human fleet was forming into battle lines. "Because we knew that peace cannot last forever. Because we knew that someday something terrible would come. And because we wanted to be ready when it did." Admiral shook her head slowly. "You humans are more frightening than the Swarm." "Perhaps," admitted. "But right now, we are your only hope, so I suggest you let us do what we do best." "And what is that?" Smile faded. Her eyes grew cold. "Survive no matter the cost." Outside, the Swarm's advance fleet appeared at the edge of the system. Millions of living ships, hungry for destruction. They saw the human fleet and did not understand what they were facing. They were about to learn. The Swarm had never known fear. For 1,000 years, they had traveled between galaxies, consuming everything in their path. They had destroyed civilizations older than human history. They had eaten species that thought themselves invincible. They knew only hunger, and their hunger was endless. When they saw the human fleet, they did not feel worried. They saw 3,000 ships against their millions. The math was simple. The prey was outnumbered. The prey would be consumed. The swarm was about to learn a painful lesson. Captain stood on the bridge of the unconquered sun and watched the enemy approach. The main screen showed millions of living ships moving like a dark cloud across the stars. Each ship was made of bone and muscle, with claws and teeth designed to tear apart metal. They were nightmares given form. Was not afraid. "All ships report status," she ordered. One by one, her captains responded. 3,000 voices, all calm and ready. They had trained for this moment their entire lives. Some of them had spent decades waiting in the hidden shipyards, knowing they might never see battle. Now the waiting was over. "Enemy fleet will enter weapon range in 3 minutes," Lieutenant reported from her tactical station. "The swarm is not changing course," Lieutenant added. "They are coming straight at us." Of course they were. The swarm had never needed tactics. They simply overwhelmed their enemies with numbers. It had always worked before. "They do not know what they are facing," said quietly. "They think we are like the council races, soft, peaceful, weak." She turned to face her bridge crew. They looked back at her with steady eyes. "Show them how wrong they are." All batteries opened fire. The unconquered sun shook as its weapons came alive. Launched tungsten rods at incredible speed. Missile bays vomited hundreds of warheads into space. Laser cannons drew lines of burning light across the darkness. Across the fleet, 3,000 ships did the same. The first wave of the swarm simply disappeared. Their organic armor was strong, but it was not designed to stop kinetic rounds moving at a fraction of light speed. Shots punched through their hulls like needles through paper. Missiles detonated inside their bodies, tearing them apart from within. Lasers cut them into pieces. In the first 30 seconds, 10,000 swarm ships died. On the observation deck of the Eternal Grace, Admiral watched in stunned silence. Beside her, Ambassador stood with his arms crossed, his face showing no emotion. "How is this possible?" whispered. "The Council's weapons barely scratched them." "Your weapons were designed for peace," said. "Ours were designed for war." The swarm tried to adapt. They broke into smaller groups, attempting to surround the human fleet. But the human ships moved in perfect coordination, covering each other's blind spots. Their point defense systems created walls of fire that no swarm fighter could penetrate. A group of larger swarm ships tried to ram the unconquered sun directly. They made it within a kilometer before the ship's close-range weapons tore them apart. "Enemy casualties at 100,000 and rising," reported. Her voice was calm, professional, as if she was reading a weather report instead of counting the dead. "Our casualties, 0." The swarm felt something it had never felt before: confusion. These prey were not dying like they should. These prey were fighting back. These prey were winning. For the first time in 1,000 years, the swarm felt fear. Captain said, "The main swarm carrier is entering range, the big one." Looked at the screen. The carrier was enormous, the size of a small moon. It was the heart of the swarm fleet, the ship that coordinated there. If they destroyed it, the entire fleet would fall into chaos. "Charge the main weapon," she ordered. Lieutenant looked up from her engineering station. "Captain, the antimatter cannon has never been tested in actual combat. We do not know what will happen." "Then I guess we will find out," sat back in her chair. "Fire when ready." Deep in the belly of the unconquered sun, the most powerful weapon humanity had ever built came to life. Magnetic fields compressed antimatter into a concentrated beam. Energy levels climbed higher and higher. The ship's lights flickered as power was diverted from everything else. "Firing," announced. A beam of pure destruction shot across space. It struck the swarm carrier dead center. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the carrier began to glow. brighter and brighter like a new star being born. And then it exploded. The blast was visible from the surface of the nearest planet. A wave of fire and radiation spread outward, consuming everything in its path. Thousands of swarm ships were caught in the explosion and vaporized instantly. When the light faded, the carrier was gone, not damaged, not destroyed, gone, as if it had never existed at all. The swarm fleet stopped advancing. Without their carrier, they lost coordination. Ships began to bump into each other. Some fled in random directions. Others simply drifted, their occupants unable to function without this guidance. "Press the attack," ordered. "Do not let them regroup." The human fleet surged forward. What had been a battle became a massacre. Swarm ships fell by the thousands, then the tens of thousands. Their organic vessels burned and died under the relentless human assault. Admiral could not look away from the carnage. She had seen war before. She had watched her own fleet die at the swarm's claws, but she had never seen anything like this. "They are not even slowing down," she said. "Your ships, they are not even trying to take prisoners." His voice was cold. "The swarm does not surrender. They only consume. There is no point in taking prisoners." "But this is extermination." Finally turned to look at her. His eyes were hard. "Yes, Admiral, it is. That is what we do. That is what we have always done. When something threatens our survival, we do not negotiate. We do not compromise. We destroy it completely." He looked back at the screen, where the last of the swarm fleet was dying. "Did you think humans became the dominant species on Earth by being merciful?" The battle lasted 11 hours. When it was over, the swarm's advance fleet had been reduced to a few thousand survivors fleeing into the void. The human fleet had lost 47 ships. 47 ships against millions. In the core worlds, billions of beings watched their screens in disbelief. The monsters that had seemed unstoppable were running away. The humans that had seemed so weak were the strongest species anyone had ever seen. Captain stood on her bridge and looked at the field of debris. Dead swarm ships floated everywhere, their organic hulls already beginning to rot in the cold of space. "Signal all ships," she said. "The battle is won, but the war is not over. The swarm will return, and when they do, we will be ready." She allowed herself a small smile. Humanity had arrived, and the galaxy would never forget it. 3 days after the battle, the Galactic Council met again. The chamber was quiet now. No more screaming, no more accusations. The delegates sat in their seats and looked at the human representatives with new eyes, fear, respect, wonder, all mixed together in equal measure. High Counselor walked to the center of the chamber. She moved slowly, her old bones tired from days without sleep, but her voice was strong when she spoke. "For 60 years, humanity has been your partner in peace. We traded with you. We learned from you. We sent our children to your schools and our diplomats to your councils. In return, you treated us with kindness, even when you thought we were weak." She paused and looked around the room. Every eye was on her. "But you were wrong about us. We were never weak. We were waiting." A holographic map appeared behind her, showing the entire galaxy. Red marks indicated the swarm's territory. It covered almost a quarter of known space. "Our fleet destroyed the swarm's advance force, but the swarm is not defeated. They are regrouping in the darkness between stars. When they return, they will bring even more ships, even more hunger." Delegate spoke up. His voice was much quieter than before. "What do you suggest, Counselor? Should we surrender to humanity and let your kind rule us?" Shook her head. "We do not want to rule anyone. We never did. What we want is alliance, true alliance. Your science and culture combined with our weapons and warrior spirit." "And if we refuse?" His expression did not change. "Then you will face the next swarm attack alone. We will protect Earth and her colonies. The rest of the galaxy can fend for itself." It was not a threat. It was simply a fact, and everyone in the room knew it. Admiral stood up from her seat. She had not slept in days. The memory of her burning fleet still haunted her dreams, but she had also seen what the humans could do. She had watched them turn impossible odds into certain victory. "I will speak for the Confederacy," she announced. "We accept the alliance." One by one, other delegates rose. Some hesitated, some argued, but in the end the vote was clear. 15 species voted yes. Only 2 voted no, and they were small powers with little influence. The Galactic Alliance was born. 3 months later, the swarm returned. They came with twice as many ships as before. Their new carrier was even larger than the last one. They had learned from their defeat. They had adapted. They were ready for revenge. They were not ready for what they found. The combined fleet of the Galactic Alliance met them at the edge of explored space. Human warships formed the core of the formation, but now they were surrounded by vessels from 16 other species. Council ships had been upgraded with human weapons. Human ships had been improved with Council technology. Together, they were stronger than either alone. Captain stood on the bridge of the unconquered sun. Admiral stood beside her, serving as joint commander of the Alliance fleet. "They are coming," said, watching the tactical display. "Twice as many as last time." "Yes," agreed, "and we are 5 times stronger than last time." The battle began. It was longer than the first fight, harder. The swarm had learned to avoid the antimatter cannons. They used their numbers to overwhelm individual ships. Several Alliance vessels were destroyed in the first hour. But the Alliance had learned too. Human captains taught their alien allies how to fight dirty. Council scientists improved human weapons to be more effective against organic ships. And when things got desperate, species that had never worked together before found ways to combine their strengths. A science vessel detected a weakness in the swarm carrier's shields. A human battleship exploited it with a barrage. A strike team flew inside the wound and planted explosives in the carrier's brain. The explosion killed the second carrier, just as completely as the first. Without coordination, the swarm fell apart once again. But this time, the Alliance did not let them escape. Human ships chased them into the void. Council vessels blocked their retreat. For 3 days, the hunt continued. When it was finally over, less than 10,000 swarm ships remained from an army of millions. They fled into the darkness between galaxies, going back to wherever they had come from. Perhaps they would return someday. Perhaps they would find easier prey elsewhere. No one knew for certain. But one thing was clear: the galaxy was no longer defenseless. The victory celebration lasted for weeks. On 100 worlds, beings of different species danced and sang together. Humans who had hidden for 60 years walked openly among their allies. For the first time in history, the galaxy was truly united. Captain did not join the celebrations. She stood on the observation deck of the unconquered sun, looking out at the stars. Admiral found her there, standing alone in the darkness. "You should be celebrating with the others," said. "You are a hero now. Everyone wants to meet the human captain who saved the galaxy." Smiled slightly. "I am not comfortable with celebrations. My people have spent too long in the shadows." Came to stand beside her. "Your people are terrifying, you know. I mean that as a compliment." "We prefer the word determined." Smile grew a little wider. "But we will accept terrifying." They stood in silence for a while, watching the stars. "What happens now?" finally asked. Thought about the question. Now we build, we train, we prepare. The swarm was not the only danger in the universe. There are other threats out there, other enemies we have not met yet. And humanity will protect us from them. Shook her head. "No, the Alliance will protect itself. That is why we wanted partners, not subjects. Humans cannot save the galaxy alone, but together, with all of us working as one, we can face anything." On the planet below, fireworks exploded in celebration. Ships from a dozen species flew in formation, their lights twinkling like stars against the night sky. For the first time in 3,000 years, the galaxy had warriors worthy of the name. Watched the celebration from her window in the council building. She was older now, too old for parties, but she was content. The work of her lifetime was complete. Her communicator beeped, a message from Earth. "Well done," it said. "Humanity is proud of you." She smiled and put the device away. Then she turned back to watch the fireworks, remembering the old human saying that her grandmother had taught her. The stars are not meant to be feared, they are meant to be conquered. And now, at last, humanity had taken its rightful place among them. Not as the weakest species in the galaxy, but as its greatest protectors. The end.